What if I told you that some of the most dangerous prisons in the world don't have walls? No bars, no guards, no locked doors, and yet millions of people willingly enter them every single day. Not because they want to, but because reality feels too heavy, too painful, too exhausting. And when reality becomes unbearable, the human mind does something remarkable. It escapes. This tendency is known as escapism, the act of avoiding reality by immersing yourself in distractions, fantasies, pleasures, or habits that temporarily shield you from your problems. At first glance, it sounds harmless, maybe even healthy. But the line between escape and avoidance is much thinner than most people realize. Escapism is not considered a mental disorder. By itself, it is simply a psychological tendency. In fact, humans have always looked for ways to step away from reality. History provides a fascinating example. During the Great Depression, one of the worst economic crises the world had ever seen, millions of people were struggling with unemployment, poverty, and uncertainty. Life was difficult, reality was painful, and yet people desperately searched for ways to avoid thinking about it. Entertainment boomed, fantasy stories gained popularity. People looked for anything that could help them forget, even for a moment. The term escapism itself became increasingly popular during this period, because when reality becomes unbearable, escaping begins to feel necessary. And to be fair, sometimes it is not all escapism is bad. In fact, some forms of escapism can be incredibly beneficial. Reading books, playing sports, writing, drawing, exercising, listening to music, watching a movie after a stressful day. These activities allow the mind to rest, to recover, to step away from pressure for a while. Even Sigmund Freud believed that fantasy and imagination play an important role in human life. The mind occasionally needs a break. The problem begins when the break becomes permanent. The human brain has one primary objective: protection. Your mind constantly tries to protect you from psychological pain, fear, stress, shame, failure, rejection, loss. Whenever these emotions become overwhelming, your brain naturally looks for an exit, a place where those emotions cannot reach you, and that's exactly where escapism enters. The question is, what do you choose as your escape? Because not all escapes are created equally. Some escapes make you stronger, others slowly destroy you. Exercise improves your physical and mental health. Books expand your imagination, writing helps process emotions, but other forms of escapism operate very differently. Endless scrolling, excessive gaming, pornography, alcohol, smoking, drugs. These activities offer immediate relief, instant gratification, a temporary escape from reality, and that temporary relief feels good, very good, because these activities often trigger powerful dopamine releases inside the brain. Dopamine is one of the chemicals associated with pleasure and reward. The brain remembers what makes it feel good, and naturally it wants more, then even more. Before long, the escape begins turning into an addiction. And here's where things become dangerous. Many people assume addiction is the problem, but often addiction is merely a symptom. The real problem is what the person is trying to escape from. Ask an extreme smoker why they smoke. Ask a heavy drinker why they drink. Many of them will tell you the same thing. It calms my mind. It helps me relax. It makes me feel better. For a brief moment, reality becomes quieter. The stress fades, the pain fades, the anxiety fades. And that's precisely why letting go becomes so difficult. Because they aren't just losing a habit. They're losing their hiding place. This creates a vicious cycle. Life becomes difficult, you escape. Problems grow larger, you escape again. Responsibilities increase, you run further. Eventually, the very things you were avoiding begin to feel bigger than they actually are. Not because they changed, but because fear magnified them. Your mind starts viewing responsibilities as threats. Challenges become monsters. Reality becomes the enemy. And escapism becomes your comfort zone. A place that feels safe but slowly traps you. Over time, a psychological bubble begins to form. Inside that bubble, everything is justified. The procrastination, the laziness, the addictions, the avoidance, the excuses. And the longer you stay inside that bubble, the harder reality becomes to face. This is where anxiety often begins. This is where depression can begin, not because escapism directly creates these conditions, but because avoiding reality prevents you from solving the problems that created the pain in the first place. The truth is, every human being practices some form of escapism, every single one. And in moderation, there is nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you need to rest, sometimes you need to disconnect, sometimes you need to breathe. The problem is not taking a break. The problem is never returning, because eventually reality will be waiting for you, exactly where you left it. And maybe that's the hardest lesson of all. Life breaks everyone. Nobody escapes hardship, nobody escapes pain, nobody escapes struggle, but running away is not a solution. You can step back for a while. You can gather your strength. You can allow yourself time to heal. But sooner or later, you must turn around and face what you've been avoiding. Because the longer you run, the larger your fear becomes. And one day, you may realize something strange. The problem wasn't as terrifying as you imagined. The fear was. I understand this because I have run before. There were moments in my life when I couldn't accept reality. Moments when I wanted to disappear. Moments when escaping felt easier than facing the truth. And for a while I did exactly that. I ran, until one day I became exhausted. And I asked myself a simple question. What am I running from? Deep down, I already knew the answer. I wasn't running from life. I was running from my mistakes, my responsibilities, my fears, myself. So don't run forever. Gather whatever courage you have. Even if it's small, stand in front of your life, face those problems, get angry. Cry if you need to fight back, fall down, get back up, but stop running. Because when you finally face your fears, you'll often discover something surprising. The problem was never as large as you thought. The fear was. And someday you'll look back and realize, life did hurt you, life did challenge you, but all along, the one doing the running was you, because no matter what happens, one thing will always remain true. This life belongs to you, and only you can live it.